Ron Chio, the founder of Clever Coca. It's a web designer, digital nomad, and marketer who is for over a decade a lawyer. Hear the unexpected story on how he went from a lawyer to a full-blown digital nomad doing websites and helping clients with marketing. He was actually one of the first listeners of this podcast, and now he became a guest. I'm super excited to have him here today. And before we jump into it, let me tell you a secret. In just few episodes, the Nomad Solopreneur show will be renamed. Yes, we are rebranding, but the format will stay the same. Unscripted conversation with authority figures, thought leaders, industry experts, and disruptors that are making this world better and sharing their learnings and stories with you so you can upskill and create more impact in the world around you. Stay tuned for the new name drop that I'll share with you in the next episode. If you haven't subscribed yet or followed the show, please do so now to stay up to date with this change. And let me know below in the comments what are your thoughts. Share some names, suggestions, and I might change the one that I picked. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Ron, I can't believe this. You went from one of the first podcast listeners to be a guest in the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm surprised just as you are. So it's funny how the world works, right? I remember listening to you back, I would say it's almost 2 years ago. And I remember distinctively listening to you on one of my walks in Athens, Greece. And it's just so surreal to actually be on the podcast itself. So thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure to have you here. And it's funny as well how small the world is, right? After you listen to the podcast, you realize that you actually have common friends. And we eventually, after more than 1 year, meet face to face. It's fabulous. And we're recording from the same city.
Exactly.
In Bangkok, Thailand. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we have same group of friends, mainly in Bali. And yeah, I feel like it was meant to be, right? So we ran into each other physically in Bali and here in Bangkok.
Yeah, and the thing is that neither of us were nomad from the beginning. Basically, you were a lawyer. From lawyer to nomad to web designer. Oh man, how'd that unfold?
Yeah, so on reflection, it seems like a bit of a dream, but yeah, so for the longest part of my adulthood, I was a lawyer in the legal industry for about 15 years, but 10 of which as a practicing lawyer. And back in the beginning of 2018, I kind of just had enough. So I had, since the beginning of my legal profession, started off working for a small boutique law firm, worked for a big, large organization, and finally, I think I hit the peak, which is running the legal department for a really large corporation. But let's just say I wasn't happy with my career trajectory. So in the beginning of 2018, I coincidentally got hit up by one of those annoying Instagram ads for a program called Remote Year. And if you don't know what Remote Year is, it is a program that goes for 1 year, hence the name Remote Year, for digital nomads. So you travel a country each month, so 12 countries in total with the same group of people. And I told myself, oh my God, I want this so badly. And so I started doing some research, like, okay, what is this digital nomad concept? I've never heard about it before. And so I went into this bit of rabbit hole, and then ultimately it came down to, okay, how do I become a digital nomad? So I started researching, okay, remote work. And as you know, the number one profession for digital nomad is web developer or web designer. So I started researching on ways to become one. So I did a boot camp for 6 weeks and did absolutely nothing with it for like 6 months. So around June 2018, I'm still doing my lawyer job. I really want to go on this program. And the cutoff was very soon to hit the September entry date. So I just told myself, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to apply for it, pay for it, and work it out as I go. And, throughout that whole process, I was thinking, okay, if I pitch this to the company I'm working for, there is no way they're going to allow me to work remotely for a year. It's just like a lawyer especially the head of the legal department working remotely for a whole year overseas. So in my mind, I'm thinking, they'll just probably fire me. And I was perfectly okay with that just because, as I said, I was kind of over the whole legal profession. Little did I know, when I pitched to them, I was so ready to hear the words, okay, well, sorry, like you did this without asking us, go away. They literally turned it around and said, that sounds amazing. Yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. So in my mind, it was kind of bittersweet because in my mind, like, oh crap, I'm still a lawyer. I was secretly hoping they would get rid of me. So it was kind of like cutting off the ties so I can, move on in my career. But in the same sense, I was kind of grateful. One, they had the trust in me to travel remotely for a year, travel the world while working and managing the legal team remotely. And yeah, I mean, the financial stability, knowing that, I'm still getting paid. I don't have to figure that out while doing this. So I go on remote year, fantastic program. As soon as I started the program, let's just say the work got so bad. And for 3 months, the first 3 months of remote year, it was very stressful. And in fact, I would say around the beginning of the third month, we did this exercise where we went around to the group and they asked, like, what's your first impressions of everyone? And everyone had such great stories about everyone. And it came to me. And the only thing everyone said is like, oh, Ron's the guy who's always working. Like he's always on in the first person in the workspace, last person out. So no one got to know me for the first, let's just say 2 months. And on top of that, because I was working so much, I actually lost my voice for a good 3 weeks because I was on constant phone calls back and forth because at the time I was in Europe. Yeah, I was just on, I would say probably 4 or 5 hours of phone calls in a different time zone, ridiculous hours. So I lost my voice. And that was kind of like the turning point. Like, you know what? I am paying a lot of money for this program. And in my mind, it was like not a once in a lifetime, but it's a very unique occasion. And I really want to take advantage of it. So I made a choice. Let's just go for it. Like, I'm just going to quit and figure it out. And I decided to do that 1 January 2019. And so I quit. And in my mind, again, it's funny how the world works. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be unemployed. I'm going to have to figure out what to do. I quit. I told my people I'm traveling with, and one of the ladies on my group was starting her own digital marketing website business and approached me like, hey, like, are you interested in doing web development? Because I know you did this bootcamp and you did nothing with it. Would you be interested in becoming my junior developer? And we can work it out together because I'm starting this agency, you're starting new, let's just work it out together. And like, of course, why not, right? What do I have to lose? And I mean, fast forward, I end up working for that agency for about 5.5 years and super appreciative. I learned so much through that.
What a story, how things literally fall together and unbelievable. You plan for that law firm to fire you and they say like, no, just go ahead and work remotely. And after that, you end up quitting and the opportunity arises to actually test what you learn in that bootcamp to become a web designer and developer. That's amazing.
Exactly. It was so serendipitous throughout the whole journey, right? And I expected none of it. And I figured it out along the way. And just to kind of tie it off. So, I continued working for that agency and still traveled because remote year finished at the end of September 2019. And I was not ready to come back to Sydney at all. So, and to this date, I'm still not ready to go back to Australia. So I've continued to become a perpetual digital nomad and loving every moment of it. So along the way, I continued working for the agency. And again, serendipity, COVID happened and we were locked down in Bali. So collectively in Bali for 14 months. And when we end of 2020 to the beginning of 2022.
I would say poor you, being locked down in Bali. And I heard how it was I had a lot of friends there, as you know, and they were like, oh, What lockdown? Basically, almost everything was open, but no tourists.
I'm not gonna lie. Like there's this running joke that sometimes my friends that I made in Bali is like, we need another pandemic because it was amazing. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was great. Obviously, not great for the local economy, but for the expats and because Bali is it's a beautiful island, but it's right now it's a little bit overpopulated with tourists. So back then, it was just nice and quiet. So. Uh, but anyway, so around 2021, I got my next big break. So I was still working for the agency, and I was at a CrossFit gym in Sonor, which a neighborhood that you're familiar with. And the owner of the gym said, "Hey, you do websites, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, like we need a website." So being a web developer, only a web developer at the time, like, sure, let me see if what designer I can hire to do the design and we can collab. And they just said, like, can you just do the design for us? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, I've never really done the design. I just build whatever is given to me. So long story short, I designed something and to be fair, they actually had a lot of their colors and their theme ready. So it's just taking all of that information and making it to something pretty that suits their needs, right? And they end up loving it. So what stemmed from that is the confidence to actually start my own web design business called Clever Quokka, and it's still running to this day. And the agency that I work for, we parted on good terms just because I wanted to focus on Clever Quokka. And yeah, so like I said before, things just happen for a reason. So it was first web development, then web design, and later down the track, as you know, Gabe, like with web design, web development, you generally need to kind of upskill and like stack on skills. So adding digital marketing to that in the mix. So it's just been a bit of a journey, and I've enjoyed every part of it.
Yeah, and well-deserved journey. And even that things kind of look like they fall into place, you actually took action. You booked that remote year. You joined that bootcamp and learned web design. Yes, if none of those actions were be taken, you basically wouldn't take that path. And yeah, one thing leads to another. And look at you years later, right now, still being a digital nomad and crushing it in digital marketing space. And yeah, man, it's fantastic. And it's so underrated, this self-learning experience in which you, of course, you took advantage as well of that partnership with the agency from which you had a lot of things to learn. And that some sort of apprentice type of approach is so underrated, right? Because it's so much easier to learn from those that are already doing that type of business rather than just try to figure out yourself. But even that, you demonstrate that you can, like when it comes to designing the website for I think it's called Paradise Valley, right? Because I think I saw your signature on the website. Yeah.
My very first website, and still remains to be one of my showcase websites, just because the owners were really great. Like, I know the stereotypical gym website is like people working out, like really buff people, sweating, like a bit hardcore. Like, we're none of that. Like, we're very bohemian, relaxed. We want to go for a beachy vibe because we're in the beautiful part of Sonora, which is a lovely beach. Like, so yeah, I pretty much got inspiration from a lot of their interior design. So that's a top tip. So if you're starting off with a brick and mortar business and they don't have a website, but they have a physical store, like, get inspiration from the actual business, like what colors they're using. So that really helped me a lot. So I didn't really have to guess much. So it was just collating all of that, the pre-existing assets they had physically, and converting that into a digital brand for them, and they loved it. So I was
That's powerful.
I was very happy. So
and speaking of that, because you mentioned something very interesting there, that most of the gym websites kind of look the same, right? And you took a spin to a gym website and you created, like, it feels artsy. Like I saw the website when I was checking the prices on that gym, and I was like, this looks different and looks good. It doesn't scream at me like, oh, look at me, how big I am, and and so on. And that's kind of the thing, right? In today's world, when it comes to websites, almost all the websites look the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. You make a really good point because that's actually one of my pet peeves at the moment. So, um, yeah. So I love web design. I've like, going from a lawyer to web design, it makes you appreciate the type of work you're doing. And I can hands down say, like, web design is one of those things I can do and just get lost in the work, right? I can start in the morning, 8 hours would pass, and like, oh, it's already nighttime. So, like in comparison to being a lawyer, I'll be in the office. I'm like, oh, it's only been 15 minutes. I'm still here. So yeah, to your point, like, yeah, all websites are starting to look the same to me. And I know for a fact that people do it for a very good reason. Like typically, if you're doing a website for a business, you want it to be optimized for conversion. And for people who don't know what it means, like you want to make sure that it's structured in a way so it converts website visitors to paying customers. So typically people just use the same structure and the same layout and all that just to focus on the conversion piece or the use like a good user experience component. But I think, and I'm a strong advocate for this, I feel like using that is a bit of an excuse to be boring. And you don't have to be boring. And that's what I kind of want to make my mission is, let's turn your digital presence into something more engaging and more exciting to make you stand out from the rest, right? And how I do that is, I'm also, full disclosure, I love animation. Like if you ask me on a personal level, like what are my hobbies, I will probably say food, travel, fitness, but I secretly will say that I am a massive comic book geek. I absolutely love anime, so it's my guilty pleasure. So I love anything to do with illustrations and animation. So I thought to myself, like, how do I kind of incorporate this passion that I have with my work and its skills? And I feel like using illustration and animation is such an underutilized tool to kind of bridge those two gaps together, right? So let's take storytelling, for example. Storytelling, typically, you can refer to comic books or like storybooks, and that has a lot of elements of illustration and maybe animation, right? So why not use that to kind of elevate your website experience? So I want to kind of put a kind of like preface to this, right? Because like I said, you've got the static, boring websites that I'm kind of over and done with. But then if you go to the other extreme, you've got the websites that are just a little bit over the top. And you probably know, Gabe, like there's this famous platform called Awards with multiple W's. I don't know why they do that, but they just have these beautifully designed websites that, in my view, are a little bit over the top. Sometimes I look at it.
I will even go as far as saying that they are useless in terms of user experience. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, yes, they're very beautiful. Like, do these animations go left, right, center, like flashing? Sometimes, like, I feel I'm seeing these websites, and I make a joke like sometimes they're seizure inducing because they're just flashing things left, right, and center. So, I think there's a healthy middle ground, right? Now you can take the best of both worlds. And I feel like that's where my mission is, to kind of bring your web design and, to a certain extent, consistent digital marketing into that middle ground, right? Like, why don't you take your foundations of good conversion-based practices and the interactiveness and the fun of animation, illustration, but make it sensible, right? And to give you a perfect example, and so I did not come up with this idea, so I can't take credit for it, but big businesses are already doing it. So we've got the likes of Stripe. So they're a massive payment gateway that everyone uses in their business. So I would say it's the largest payment gateway in the world. But they're essentially doing the same thing, right? They're using a very professional looking website, but using illustrations and animation to enhance the user experience by doing demonstrations of the process they go through. And I feel like it's just like that should be the level people should take to kind of give their users a better experience.
Absolutely, because you kind of showcase to the user the fact that here, in their case, like here's how the app works. Here's how the process will look like. Or if you're another type of businesses, you can showcase the experience. Like even let's say a local business like a restaurant, you can have an animation in which you open the door and welcome the guests in, the customers in, or other type of animations that can work really well in that type of case, rather than just throwing random animations like those awards type of websites do. Having these small interactions and just not building the website in a boring way, I think it's super smart. And I agree that there is a middle ground there, but I'd love to ask you how you actually make sure that's the case. Like, do you follow certain processes and steps in order to arrive at that point? Like, oh, this is not an overdue. It's just exactly what is needed to increase the user, to maintain or increase the conversions, but in the same time to increase the experience of the user in terms of time retention on the page and so on. How do you do it?
Absolutely. So my main principle is if it's for a business, you start off with the foundations. Make sure you have your content, your messaging down packed. So be clear on what you do, who you do it for, and how you do it. So that is a must. So from there, you kind of build a narrative. You build your content around that. So using, again, foundational best practice around conversion optimization and best user experience and user interaction principles, you build out the website as you would. Then you would go to the extra layer and say, okay, how do I make this information, instead of just having a stock image trying to represent something, because you see it, right? Like, okay, we're coaching services, so you just put up a generic stock photo of someone teaching a group of people, right? Or
and often it's not the coach itself, it's just a random stock image. Yeah,
exactly. Or the opposite is you just put a whole bunch of text, which I think this day and age, we are so, I would say, and I might be biased here because I fall within this bracket, I'm more of a visual learner. So I love YouTube. Like, I get a lot of my content through YouTube, and I feel like that is kind of like where the trend is going for the large majority. I know some people still prefer, reading the information through blog posts or news articles, but I feel for the large majority, people are getting their information through other mediums such as social media, which is visual, or YouTube, which is visual, or language learning. So usually it was like such a monotonous task of just translating the word. Now we have the likes of Duolingo that makes learning fun because you've got little animations that kind of supplement the language learning. So yeah, so using that example, right, like the coaching. So instead of having a stock image of someone pretending to teach someone, you can have an animation, and if you want to go to extra level, make the animation look like you. So it's easy to do. So with animation, comparison to real life photography, you're only limited by your imagination, and obviously, your skill set. Like, you'll need to hire someone to actually draw for you if you don't know how to do it. But let's just say you do. Your imagination can go wild with actually doing that illustration. And instead of you just having a generic photo, you can have a little avatar of yourself actually teaching people. And just say you have a diverse range of clients. And you have, let's just say, you as the avatar, and you have 3 different people in front of you, and you hover above each of those avatars, and it brings up a little animation of the ideal client profile, or sorry, ideal client avatar for that avatar. So for that illustration. So things like that is just enhancing the interactivity and kind of like the engagement. So that's just an example, I think, that I say that is more appealing than just reading blocks of text.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think I review hundreds of websites in terms of analyzing how users use them, and watching recordings after recordings. A lot of people skim; they don't read full block of text. They go through it. They just try to understand fast if what's there is right for them, and incorporating these visual elements that you mentioned, especially if they're a bit in motion and they guide the user through the experience. Like you mentioned, storytelling, like you can actually tell the story of your business or tell the story of how your service can help them in a visual way, using, of course, text as well, because it's much more clear, and you start with that, like you well mentioned. But afterwards, try to incorporating this type of visuals can help a lot. And I would guess here you can work as well with videos, and even in videos you can incorporate these motion elements and tell a story. And I think there was a huge trend at some point when it comes to explanatory videos, which were basically animated, not just one single person talking at the camera like a talking head. That can work well for the intro and some, like, you show yourself a few seconds later. But I think that thing not only increase user retention, but might increase conversion almost certain.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And you make a really good point about video. So video is another great way for conversion and for engagement. My only, I guess, issue with that is some people generally are a little bit, not skeptical, but hesitant on clicking on videos just because they know, like, oh, it might be 30 seconds or a minute to actually watch this. And unfortunately, this day and age, I feel like everyone's attention span is shrinking like exponentially with like the likes of shorts and TikTok reels being 15 to 30 seconds long. So the benefit of using these kind of like animated animations, it's just there on the page, right? They're interactive and they're probably run for like 2 or 3 seconds. So the hesitation to actually use it is far less than having someone click on the video. But you're right. You can use animation to your videos just to kind of give that more of a fun, interactive approach. And videos are great for information, so I'm not going to discredit that. But yeah, animation and through the website itself and through video, I think maybe a combination of both is like a powerhouse combination to use if you really want to take your business to that level.
Absolutely. And to go a bit and continue the conversation regarding the website where you started, the elements that you want to have on the website. You mentioned that you start, of course, with a copy and to make sure that it's clear, that you address exactly who you help, how, and what exactly you're doing. And after that, like, what other elements a high converting landing page should have in order for those listening to have a look at their website and they analyze it to understand if they have to improve it in certain ways?
Yeah. So call to actions. So nothing, everything else is a lead up to the call to action. Because if you don't have the call to action, you're essentially not going to convert, right? And for those listening who don't know what call to action is, it's just an action, typically a button or a link that makes a user either book a call if you're a consultant, booking a free trial if you're providing a software or a product online. So it's something that allows them to effectively take up your services or product. So I would say that is kind of like the precipice of like what you should be aiming towards. And going back to my point, so I've seen amazing things used with animation to kind of help in that regard. So it's I've got one, and it's actually a program I use with my illustration and animation. It's a platform called Rive, R-I-V-E. And when you hover above the button, it actually has a little cat hand, a cat paw, trying to push you to press the button. So just little things like that. It's fun. It actually makes you want to click the button. Not just if you're interested in the product, yes, you're going to click eventually, but just for the sake of seeing the cat, push the mouse to click. It's such a great, I guess, strategy to kind of increase conversion. So things like that. I see other things where you've got a little box that says book a call, and then a walking avatar that's kind of kindly walking, saying, putting their hand towards the button, just to prompt users like, hey, the button's here. You should click on it if you want to go ahead with it. So I think that is probably where you want to be with kind of implementing this strategy with animation and converting clients through the call to action.
I get what you're saying, Ron, but look at me. I'm a serious business owner, and I don't have this fun in my business brand, right? Like, how can I incorporate this type of micro interactions and animation in my brand and in my website without, I don't know, breaking trust with my potential clients?
Yeah, and you make a really good point. So, like putting aside of playfulness and fun, that's not for everyone. So that's the type of clients I like to work with that want to have more of a playful side to their brand or to their business. But to answer your question, it doesn't have to be to that extent, right? So just using good foundations of user experience, right? Just make sure the button is very prominent, like it's very clear that it is a button. Make sure that the colors you use are well used and have enough contrast, so it's very clear that it stands out to the rest. You essentially want to bring the user's eye towards that button, so they can't miss it whatsoever. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, a cat paw trying to grab you when you're hovering above it. It just could be something simple, right? Like you hover above it, and it could be have like a tick. I see that a lot. An animated tick that says, okay, you're about to tick. Or if it's something to do with sales, you could have something money related when you hover above it. So it really can be catered to your theme, is what I want to say. You don't have to be too playful with it. You can still remain very professional by just adding these subtle animations just to help users along the way.
Absolutely. And you mentioned there's something that I see a lot of people making this mistake of not having enough contrast between the call to action button, or in general, even when it comes to text on top of background. On probably 80% of the websites online, it's also on those websites, it's almost impossible to read.
Exactly.
And if user cannot read, and this is not sure if it's the number one mistakes, but definitely one of the most common. What are others? Like, if you can share other mistakes that you usually notice on people's websites that prevents the user to actually interact with the website the right way, or to take action and actually book that call or purchase that product and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I can go on for hours about this, but I'll try to kind of limit it down to what I see are the most common ones. I would say like the number one is being clear on what you actually do, right? So a lot of people at the beginning, the hero section is the first thing anyone sees. So that is arguably the most important part of your website because, again, going back to my point, people's attention spans are so short. You need to be engaging. You need to be very clear on what you do, who you do it for, and how you do it, right? So a lot of people I see, they use copy that is very, let's just say, vague and maybe a bit meta. Like,
Too clever.
Too clever. So that's a good point because I know it's ironic because my brand is Clever Quokka, but I always like to say, like, always be clear over being clever, right? And I stole that term from someone, but that's the truth of it. You need to be very clear, opposed to being too fancy. And I've had clients before that have been so not stubborn, but they're so fixated on the wording they use on their hero. Like using words like, have you ever fantasized this? Opposed to being clear, like, I do this. This is how I solve your problems. So I would say that is probably the number one thing I would say people do that's not conversion optimized. And I would focus on that as a number one priority if people want to be super clear on their website and get those clients.
So much agree with that because indeed, and I think one of the reason is that big businesses, like, which they don't even have to be that clear, like, I don't know, Apple, Microsoft, and others, they are using short, punchy headlines to make a point. But anyone that lands on Apple websites, they already know what they are doing. They already know what they are selling and so on. They don't have to. But probably if you're listening or watching this episode, you're not in that position. you're in a position in which if someone arrives on your website, probably just find about you, who knows where, on social media, whatever, and they have no idea what they're doing or what you're doing or what you're offering. And being clear for the get-go, and for those that are not aware what above the fold is, imagine, or hero section, like Ron said, imagine that you have a newspaper and is the fold, like first thing that you see, that's the first section of your website, where before you scroll, let's say, if you are not clear on that section, and even speaking of your point on using visuals and animations and so on, if you can as well incorporate that part there, in which to either showcase your product or your service in a clever way, but clear way, you get a really, really good chance of transforming that visitor into lead and eventually into a buyer. And apart from that, what else you notice usually people do wrong when it comes to websites?
Yeah, so we talked about not having a call to action and being unclear on your hero section. What else? So there are a multitude of things that I would say those two are probably the main ones that are absolutely critical. You need to address those straight away. So I guess, on the opposite of the scale, so some people also add too much content to their website. And I've seen that done multiple times where they just bombard the user with just endless paragraphs of text. I don't know about you, but I want the answer straight away. Like if I can't get that answer, like if I'm, okay, let's just say I read the hero section, that's good, it's clear. Then I go down and I see just a wall of text. I'm most likely just going to click away because I am going to tell myself like, this is too much. I just want you to tell me in, 4 or 5 sentences how you're actually going to solve my problem or what you can do for me. So coming from the legal background, I'm going to tie that in because we're taught the opposite, right? So as a lawyer, you need to be very clear. You need to include all the information. And you go to your website, it's the complete opposite. You need to be short, concise, and punchy. You need to actually give them bite-sized information for them to actually get kind of just like an interest of what you do so that they actually go ahead and book that call with you. So I would say that's the next big thing. Just be very concise with your website copy and make sure that it reads easy. It actually addresses the points that you think that your visitors would want to read about. And it flows from there. So let's just put it all into context. You see the hero section, you like it, it's very clear. You read the content, it's short, punchy, it answers all my concerns. Then you see the call to action, it's clear that I need to book a call with you. Those, I would say, are your fundamental steps for a very high converting website or landing page.
Definitely agree with that. And of course, there are some optional things that can enhance as well conversion and improve conversion. Like another, I think, underrated are the frequently asked questions section, in which you can address objections and save time as well, because you don't end up with tire kickers in your calls, since you might address the pricing if that's not valid on the website. And I actually want to ask you about that. On what fence are you, like on what side are you? On those that you want to display the website pricing, the service pricing, or you want to hide it?
I love you brought this question because this literally was a bit of a debate I had with one of my clients and another community chat I had. So it's a cop-out answer, but the answer is it depends. So I'm a big believer of disclosing your prices because take it this way, right? You would never go into a store and buy something without the prices. So you should treat your website the same, right? Like if you want someone to buy from you and you already have your prices ready, so just display them. So people are very skeptical in disclosing their prices for, I hear like, oh, I'm too embarrassed. I don't want to be bragging about my prices, or, I'm unsure if I'm undercutting myself by disclosing my prices. So what your prices are. You put them on there. So I would advocate for that. On the other hand, there are situations where adding your price may actually confuse a user. Let's just say it is very contingent on a number of criteria. I had a coach where, yes, the hourly rate is X amount, but it depends on, the type of service and, the coaching and the background. So that's where I would say, like, maybe put a disclaimer on your pricing. I'm still going to be a big advocate of disclosing your pricing, and it doesn't have to be black and white. You can easily address it a few ways. You can do it in a blog, say, okay, if you want to work for me, this is a past client and how we were able to kind of come up with the pricing, right? Or to your point, the frequently asked questions, that's a perfect way to put it. So you're actually not specifically adding pricing on the page, but it's something I've done where, in the past where I'd say, how much do you cost? And I will give an FAQ, say, okay, typically 1 to 3 pages, it's from this amount, 5 to plus pages is from this amount, but and give scenarios on what would increase that price. So that's another way of addressing the pricing component if you just don't want to put the prices.
So I'm with you. There are so many ways in which you can share the price. And as well, there are situations in which you need to hide it. And you need to get some sort of data from them, like the email and name, before you actually show the next steps and the pricing and so on. That's a way to do it as well. But when you show it, you can also straight away remove those that don't simply have the budget, and you don't lose time with those. And plus, it can give you even leverage in the sense that you can use price anchoring. Let's say you have 3 packages, and you can, based on how you price it, to point the people towards the right one. And for example, let's say the higher tier, it's 15,000, the middle tier is 9,000, and the lower tier, it's like 7,000. Because of the difference, like 7, 9, 15, 9,000 comparing to 7 looks way better in terms of what's included, let's say, comparing to 50,000, which looks too expensive because it's a big gap between 9 and 15. But people often won't buy the 7 and will buy the 9 because they'll get more for just a small increase in price. And this is, of course, just a top of the head example, but leveraging price anchoring, and plus, like, instead of getting that super expensive thing, I actually make a really good deal. And in terms of what to include in those packages, the middle package at 9,000 should include almost similar things with 15,000, minus, of course, some items or some things. But that way, you really make that 9,000 package a no-brainer for those searching. And if you and I noticed as well, like through testing, that, for example, if you just put a single price, like price starting at, it's very unlikely that the person you will talk to, that prospect, will purchase something much more higher than that. If your goal is to sell, let's say, price starting at 5,000, and your goal is to sell a service or a package at 10,000, it's almost impossible at that point.
Exactly.
At least not from the get-go, because you'll need to build that trust and so on. But they have that 5,000 in mind, and that's anchoring as well. So yeah, it's interesting how pricing works, right?
Exactly. And you make a really good point there. So this is another a helpful tip for a conversion optimized website. And again, I wouldn't focus on too much when you're starting off. So what I covered before around the hero section, content, and call to action are a must if you're starting your website. But as you progress, the next thing you need to cover is social proof, right? So there's nothing more powerful to convert someone if you have testimonials or something from someone that says, I've bought from you, I've used your services, and you're fantastic. So it's like the website in that regard is kind of like the same thing you do when you look up a restaurant on Google Maps, right? You go to the reviews first, like, oh, okay, it's a 4-star or 3-star. Let's see why they're a 4-star, 3-star. Same sense, right? Like if you add testimonials or like some kind words on your website, that's social proof. or testimonial is a great component to use to kind of add to your conversion optimized website.
Absolutely. And that's probably another big mistakes people make, not putting those testimonials up or having case studies and so on. And those are gold because people see others in their same shoes that are literally using your service and having success with it. And speaking of that, who you help at Clever Coca?
So I specifically work with small to medium-sized businesses, and my ideal client avatar are people who want to have a unique and fun experience with their website to their digital marketing. So at Clever Quokka, I started with a website. Websites is, I believe all roads go to websites, and it should be your digital home base, right? So my clients, I help them come up with a unique and beautiful brand. But I don't stop there. So to give them the full experience, I typically like work with small to medium-sized businesses because I find, for me personally, they are there for the long term, right? I love having a long-term relationship with clients. And that's not to say you can't do the same with larger corporations, but larger corporations, you've got a bit of corporate bureaucracy. They might do an annual review and say, you're too expensive, or we need to upgrade to this person. So I find if you start off small or medium, they're there for the long haul. Typically, not always the case. So, build a website and want to give them like a beautiful design and unique that stands out from the rest. That shouldn't stop from just the website. It should carry over to all of their marketing. So I help them in that regard to make sure that they have a consistent brand from their website to their digital marketing.
I love that because indeed, and first the thing that you mentioned as basically your home online, the website, and it's so true because you cannot build a business on rented land. Like if you're just having a big personal brand on, I don't know, Instagram, LinkedIn, name it, that can be gone in a split second. Look what's happening now on TikTok. Like how many people are affected by the looming ban, if that will happen eventually or not. But I saw others getting banned on LinkedIn overnight without actual reason, because now all these big social platforms are using AI to randomly ban users, and most of the time they are wrong. They didn't do anything wrong, and sometimes they can revert their account back, but sometimes they don't. And yeah, that's why having a website, having an email list are such great ways. And of course, after that, making sure you are consistent in your brand visuals across all the other platforms is also essential. Great tips.
Yeah, I actually laugh a little bit because sometimes you get the gurus out there saying that, no, you just need LinkedIn. You don't need a website. And I kid you not, Gabe, I will wait a few months, and I would say 99% of the time, that guru will be launching a product and they launch a website. Like, oh, okay, I thought you didn't need a website, but all of a sudden you have a website or a landing page.
But most of them they're actually having anyway, and they're just pushing that narrative because they're selling probably LinkedIn services or other related services, and they're like, that's the only way you can do it. But of course, that's not true. And same with websites, like it's not enough to have a website. You need traffic to it. You need social media presence nowadays. It's so important to have a personal brand and so on. So everything comes together and helps you with the digital marketing. Otherwise, it's so hard to grow a business.
Exactly. And that's, I guess, one of my stronger selling points, right? So we're not just going to build your website, make it look pretty and say goodbye. We're here I'm here for the long haul, right? So, and I think that's why people come to me. They're like, okay, example. So I had an association of coaches approach me last year, and I'm happy to say they're now ongoing retainer client for the fact that I did digital marketing. So they came to me like, okay, we need someone to do our website, and I just kind of pitched like, I also like, I'm here for the long haul, so I want to help with digital marketing. Like, and they were blown away. Like, oh, that sounds amazing. We need help with that too. We just need someone that, wants to go to the website roll it out to all of our socials or our email list and all that. So it's for people out there who are web designers and are a bit skeptical on dabbling into, web design, web development, and maybe marketing. I would strongly suggest, adding it as one of your offerings, because, like you say, Gabe, it doesn't stop at the website. There's so much work that needs to be done to promote your offerings beyond the website. You need to actively market it to the world, or else, eventually it'll just be on
100%.
deaf ears.
And speaking of that, if someone that listens to us want to work with you, where they can find you?
Yeah, so I've got my website. It's Clever Quokka, and I'll spell it out. So Clever, Clever, and Quokka is Quokka. And I'll just have to explain what a quokka is for people who don't know what it is. So I'm Australian, and a quokka, if you know the infamous selfie animal from Australia, is a cute little marsupial from down under where I'm from. And that is, I would like to say, my spirit animal, my digital avatar, call it what it is. So cleverquokka.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Ron Chio, surname is Chio. And if you want to keep up to date with, I publish a newsletter every week. So I do try to make it exciting by including my own illustrations into the newsletter. It's a quick 1 to 2 minute read on a funny story incorporated with a very helpful tip on improving your website and marketing initiatives. So you can go to that to cleverquokka.com/newsletter.
Awesome. And I'll put the links as well in the show notes below. And I would love to conclude with one tip for those listening, one challenge if you want. They can apply in less than 1 week. Tell them 3 things they should look for in order to simply get it better at converting that traffic into leads.
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I think start with the fundamentals and look at your hero section. And is it clear? Like, let's not be woo about it. Make sure that you know what you do and you communicate it quickly. So sometimes we get into our own confirmation bias, right? So it's helpful to have peers or someone, or even go to your clients. If you already have clients working with you, go, hey, I just want to get your feedback because you're a valued client. Can you just have a read of my website? And do you think it's clear on what I do? Or do you think I can make it clearer? So there is nothing more important than getting feedback from your client, because they're ultimately the ones working with you, and they know what you do, and they're most likely going to give you honest feedback. Unless they're too polite, they'll probably say, yeah, it's fine. But I think for the large majority, they will give you honest feedback saying, I feel like you can do this better. Then from there, go to your website and just make sure everything is not too over the top with text, and make it short and concise and punchy. That I know is a bit harder to do, because depending on how big your website is, it might require a massive rehaul, or it could just be a matter of just culling some information that you think may be a little bit redundant. And finally, the call to action. So make sure it's prominent. Again, it's clear, and you're telling the client or the user exactly what to do. So things I hate is kind of like the vague call to action, say, explore the possibilities. Like, what does that mean? So,
Exactly.
Work with us. Yes, that's fine. Be more clear. Book a call. Try out free trial. So just be very clear. Yeah, I mean, you can be a little bit clever with the wording, but just make sure it's not confusing when someone reads that call to action. So I would say those are my top 3. And again, if you want to go that extra level, just try to, make it more high converting by adding social proof and testimonials. But for a week, I think let's focus on that and start up with that. And, having a website, same with the business, it's going to be an iterative journey. So it's never going to be perfect all in one go. It's going to take a lot of revisions and updating as your business changes and evolves. So, but start off with that for a week.
100%. And love this challenge, because anyone can apply it in less than 1 week. And at the end of that process, you'll have definitely a way better website. Thank you so much, Ron, for sharing that and for joining me today. It exciting and as well fun to have you after almost 2 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabe. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I'm so grateful for having the opportunity to be on this podcast. So thank you too.
Yes, you. You're one of the few that stick to the end. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing so. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so below. And if you got any value from this, please share it with a friend. They might got some value from it as well. Thank you so much, and until next week, Pura Vida!